Myles, welcome to B2B Content Strategies podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Amy. Yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks for asking me.
It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So I really appreciate your time. So to kick off the conversation, it would be fantastic to just hear really a bit of a summary of your role, Myles, at Trolley, and a little bit as well about what Trolley does.
Yeah, so I am the Senior Director of Content Marketing at Trolley. That role is, there's a lot of self-explanatory in it that I am the content group, the work that's done in the content group. I take the lead on that. Our content team has a bit of a broad range of responsibilities. We do everything from blogging and organic content. We dive into, we do some social. We do the social work, and we also do anything that's required to support other teams with content. So if our growth marketer needs ads, we're usually jumping in that. If our product marketer needs some help with things that he's putting together for sales enablement, we're jumping into that. I like to think that like we're a keeper of the style, at least the style guide. So even our product team, our sales team, they lean on us a little bit to make sure that everything is clean and crisp and clear and in that Trolley style. And yeah, so it's a pretty fairly decent sized scope of what we do. There's two of us in the team, myself, and I have a content specialist who works with me. She is our day-to-day lead on some of the verticals that we work in. I guess in getting into that sort of leads into what Trolley does. Trolley is a software. We're a SaaS, we're a fintech. We create a software that allows people to pay the non-contract workers that they work with. So if you're thinking about someone who might be in the United States, it's a W-2 worker, that's your standard employee. If you're thinking about anyone else, a freelancer, an artist that might be getting royalties or receiving royalties, you think about influencer marketers who aren't paid as a standard employee, they're paid on a contractual basis. Trolley helps companies pay those people, and we know that more and more companies are basing their workforce on that, and some companies have their complete business model based around that. Seller platforms, two-sided marketplaces, all of these folks who have payouts to do can rely on a tool like Trolley to get that job done.
Awesome. So in terms of your end client, there's the people who are the receiving end and the sending of the transactions. Is the client for Trolley more the enterprise organizations and big companies that Trolley gets integrated with, like social platforms and things like that? What does that look like?
Exactly. So those end enterprise clients, that's where we're integrated. So it's really interesting. One of the good examples, and I might come back to this example very often, is like a music label. You have, we say artists, but artists and rights holders. There's people who have the right to be paid every time a royalty is due on a certain musical performance. A label will need to pay those folks, and what they will do is they will integrate Trolley into their system. As payments are marked and payments are ready, Trolley gives them access to banking networks and automates that payment system. So you say, I need to pay, let's say I need to pay Paul McCartney for some old Beatles recording that got played. It automates, it has all of the banking information stored securely and issues that payment through payment partners that we have. And then was one thing that I've always found really interesting, because no one likes what happens in January through March, which is tax season. Because I've made payments to a certain artist all year long, I have the information I need to send him his tax forms. And in the US, for Americans being paid by an American company, that's a 1099 form, and there's multiple of those. And for someone who's non-American being paid by an American company, that's a 1042S form. And you receive those, and that's work that has to be done by some finance team that can't start the work until January 1st, and they need to finish it by January 31st. So they have 31 days to get this done. What's interesting about what we do and what I really like is that we're collecting all that information over the course of the year. So when Jan 1 comes, you can just you can check out, make sure you have it, all the data matches your records, hit the next button, it's sent off to the artist or the freelancer or the contractor, and they've got the forms they need. but you've also got what you need to file with the IRS and keep them off your back and then move into the next year nice and easy and free. So Trolley works from the minute you get a new person who you need to start paying, whether that's a new seller, a new artist, someone you sign, to the moment you need to file their tax forms and start the next year over, that data is being built, a record's being built for them to make the process easier for both them and for you on the inside. And yeah, that's really what our product team and our engineering team are building on a daily basis. And what we as a marketing team are trying to help tell a story around is around just making that payment process as easy as possible.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love to hear about that. And that what you were saying about the tax calculations and forms, that must be so handy because it must save people hiring external support to do that for them. Of course, the IRS are going to love the fact that you help them get the right payment in as well. So looks like there's a lot of people that win. That's really interesting. And you've got, sounds like a small but mighty team then. So there's 2 of you in the team and there's a lot that you do. From what you said, your scope is pretty big. So I'm sure you're always very busy. Are there certain things that you decide from the content marketing perspective that you always tend to retain and keep in-house within the team that you work with, and certain things that you will generally look towards getting some help external, whether it's agencies, contractors, black outside expertise to come in and support you?
Yeah, so it is a good question because I've been thinking a lot about it for a while. This is a question that I go back and forth on. I've liked having a big team. I've had a team of 12 in the content group, and we've handled not just the content development, but we've had designers, I've had, and I'm not necessarily at Trolley, but at other companies I've worked at, I've liked having that in-house. I've liked having the person I can knock on their door and say, hey, the style I like in terms of writing, the design I like, the development, I can give you an idea and really execution's happening in one group. So traditionally, I've tried to keep a lot of that together. In the last year, I've really been looking for how we can do more with incremental bits and trying to find the best bang for our buck. We are a maturing company. We raised Series B a couple of months ago, and we're trying to bring in new strategies. So the one thing I'm doing right now is I'm in full experimentation on the freelancing side of things. And we have an in-house content writer who is our specialist in the music industry. I really like that she is our subject matter expert. She can own that. If I have a question about how Trolley works well in the music industry, she's gotten to the point where she's a reference point, not just for me, but others in the company go to her, and she knows the messaging and the positioning really well. Other places where we're trying new messaging and where we want to dig deep and explore, part of that works. We have a product marketer on our team who helps us with that, and he's really good at laying out a groundwork for us. I'm working now with a freelance writer who is really direct response, because I need to go test some new industries and I need to get really good high performing ads, high performing landing pages, and I don't have time to make sure that we have overanalyzed. What I want to do is I want to get some message out, test it, rinse, repeat. We're doing A/B testing. We're refining that on the fly, because I think that we can have an impact in these new verticals very quickly if we're taking that message out. So that's one of the places where I found someone who is a high performer and is doing this all day long and has built a sort of a good reputation around delivery. And that would take us time to build that in-house, and we would flex. It's coming in there. One of the other things I'm going to work with, I'm thinking about a freelancer right now, is PR type work, thought leadership type work, getting our name out there, someone who has contacts, because they might be writing in fintech, but they're not necessarily in Trolley where we have 5 strong marketable moments in the year. They're dealing with marketable moments all year round. So we're leaning on that person who can provide us action, and we can lean on their experience. So I think in those places, it's where that like technical delivery experience can be matched with a flexibility in terms of learning and getting to know a product really quickly. It's great. It helps us get something off the ground. And then when we have proof, we're working towards like a proof of concept on potentially up to 6 new verticals this year. Any of those that hit, there's a great argument then to start building some in-house knowledge and bring some of those responsibilities in-house. But I may make the decision, I'm looking at budget across the year, and I may make the decision, hey, that money that I wanted to invest in a writer in Q4, having someone come in Q4 so they're ready for Q1, maybe that's a great spread among different freelancers who give us like 5 or 6 different skill sets that we can really use on any given day. The long form writer is different than the direct response writer, is different than the social writer, is different than the person who's like helping us script a video. And maybe we aren't at the stage where we need to have 4 people doing those 4 different jobs. Maybe we can be working with some outside partners on that one.
Yeah, it's quite a common answer that I've had to that question around the writing, really. I think writers that really understand your industry in the way that you've explained, and then the specific skill sets around long, social, ad, etc., they're not easy. They're hard to find, aren't they? When you find a good writer that gels with your team and your company and what you're about and understands the industry and can do all that, you want to hold on to them because they're hard to find, aren't they? Yeah, it seems a common challenge, but also a very good problem when it's solved. In terms of your career then, Myles, not just looking necessarily at Trolley, but just across your career, is there a really particular memorable like content campaign that you've worked on? I'd love to hear. What do you always look back and remember, and why? What were you measuring? What were the success factors? What were you trying to achieve?
Yeah, there's a couple things that come up. I think back, one of the ones that really stuck with me, and this was in my first role where I had done a year of working in SEO, but not in content. I had worked at a place where we had done some SEO optimization, and I took my first content writing job. And it just so happened that one of our customers, I'm in Montreal, and one of our customers was the Montreal Canadiens. This is the city's hockey team. Go Habs go, if anyone's from Montreal or Canada. One of our customers were the Canadiens, and what we offered at that time I worked at a company that did video hardware. So we helped, if you had multiple screens in a location, you could stream the same image to all of it. And just the fact that my product was being used with a team, with a franchise that has this storied history in professional sport. I think at one time, maybe not anymore, but they had the most championships of any professional sport teams. People that know the team knew the team, and to be a part of that, saying that, in the concourse, all of the menu screens were all synchronized perfectly, and doing my first case study where I was going from being a marketing writer who might be asked to work on a particular ad, etc. I got a bug for getting in front of the customer. And since then, in that role, I switched into sort of a PR customer facing role where I was writing these customer stories pretty regularly. And that is something that I have gone back to time and time again it's in my toolkit, customer stories, getting in front of people, telling their story. I want that to be the first thing that I can do, is tell more of this, because I think it has so much value. So I remember being able to do that in my home, or in the town I live in, was great. This one stuck with me. This one sticks with me. I'm looking at the date, and it was exactly 5 years ago today, March 13th, 2020, a very ominous day for a lot of people. I was in a brand new job. I had been there for 2 weeks, and one thing I found out after being in it for a couple of days was that we had just booked this $500,000 marketing campaign. We had big production budgets. So late February, I hear about this, and the week of March, I guess it would have been like March 9th, we start to get a feeling of what's going on in the world. And maybe we're not in the office the next week, but we have not filmed. We have this production budget. We have influencers booked. We have a production company ready to come in. So I do remember there was this campaign that we got together in about 48 hours between March 14th and March 15th, because the office doors were locked on Monday and we were not coming back. Being the new team lead of the content group there was interesting, seeing that happen all at once. We did get a fantastic campaign out. All of this came through, but it really just, it nailed down. You'll never have everything perfect. You're always going to have to be flexible. If you're aiming for perfection in at least the way you do the work, you're setting yourself up for failure. So that one sticks with me as well. That's another one that I think, and the timing is absolutely spooky because it was 5 years ago today. And for me to think that was 5 years ago is bonkers.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's so funny that it happens to be 5 years today. That's quite ironic. In terms of when you were just saying, which I agree with you about things being perfect and things like that, actually leads me really nicely on to my next question, which I love to ask, which is, do you have any funny tales of content marketing mishaps, anything that didn't quite go right, any cautionary tales of something that perhaps wasn't right?
There's one that I wish I kept it, but I didn't. And I do remember I sent out, I think I'll start with the lesson on this one. And not everyone will be your fan. Not everyone will be your fan. I remember I was going to a show. This was with the video card company, and we were going to an expo, and I sent out an email to, I think, something like 100 editors to try to line up time with them so that I could put my people in front of them. And I think I had a pretty good success rate. I had some editors. We took lunches. We had dinners. We were busy. We were going to a pretty big trade show. We were busy the whole time. And as point of contact, but I do remember an email that I received back. And it was something like, this is the worst email I've ever received. I don't know why someone who can't write would be asking to set up time to speak to an editor. And I took it and I printed it and I hung it on my cubicle while I was there. And I just made sure I looked at it because I was like, not everyone is going to love everything you do. We had a fantastic show. I think that was a show where we decided that the team was all going to run a 5K, and we had some really good runners, and I went in and we had all of the shirts for everyone else printed with my photo on it. Have you seen me? And I came in, I think 20 minutes after the rest of them, and it was just perfectly timed. Like, you can't win on that one. But before we went, someone really was not happy that I existed. And you know what? There was nothing I was going to do about it. And everything we do, like, I think in content, it's, you put the best content out for the audience that you can, and you gather as much insight and you know as much about your audience. And if you do that work, you're going to get 99 out of 100. But even if you do it perfectly, there's going to be one person who is just, I don't want to be marketed to, I can't be marketed to, I'm impervious to marketing, whatever they think, and you won't win on them all. I think that one was like it sticks with me.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you just lent into that and you printed that off and you didn't let it get to you, just took the right learning. You're not going to please everyone. Not everyone's going to love you. And if you're not getting some responses like that occasionally, you're probably not doing anything that noteworthy, are you? The whole kind of, you do have to polarize in a way. So,
and I don't remember his name. So you know what? It must not,
no,
he didn't stick with me either. So I'm not going to.
No, I'm sure.
I'll thank him for that, though.
Exactly. I love that story, and I love the lesson that came from it as well. It's really good. So, in terms of content, you guys create lots of different types of content at Trolley, and I'm sure you've created content of all different types across different roles that you've had as well. And it wouldn't be a podcast episode with me without me mentioning something about maximizing and repurposing content. And I'd love to know, is there a particular content type, report, white paper, video, podcast, blog, etc., a content format that you love to create because you get so much repurposing potential from it? So like a favorite type of content that you create that you can repurpose?
I think, like, historically, I would say that one of the places that I've liked to repurpose, because I think you start with such gold, is start with the white paper, not the thought leadership piece, but start with a white paper, start with a state of the industry type document, and that can be sliced and diced however you like. I have noticed in the last couple of years, though, that the returns on that type of content in terms of the ability to promote it, the cost per lead, the cost per opportunity generated from that type of content has really been rising. It's harder to get attention and have someone come and read that 20-page document. And the repurposing is great, but I find that the repurposing always points towards the larger item, which is then are you investing more and more? And that's sort of the mindset that we've been taking on is like, how are we in the long run going to make this? Is our repurposing going to lower the cost of our leads, or is it going to be in addition to, is it going to create this bigger campaign with a higher cost per lead because we're promoting more material? Video, though, has been so intimidating for me. Podcasts, webinars, whatever it might be, you start with something big. And I think that there is a logic to starting with something big and recycling down as opposed to trying to assemble pieces to build something bigger. I had a meeting in December with our marketing team, and I had a couple people ask what's coming in video. And I said, I don't know if I'm the right guy for video. I don't know if this is where I win. I found a tool. I've been using a tool that I have found it helps me. It really works to my strength. And I don't want to plug anything, but I do want to at least say this is a product I think people can take a look at. And I think there are others like it. Descript is like transcript-based editing of video. Means that I work really well in words. I can take a look at the transcript. I can slice and dice from that as opposed to a timeline. Does it make it, am I creating like perfect videos? No, but I'm creating something that I think is deliverable and we can get out. And Megan, our content specialist who works on the team, is also starting to experiment and using it. We're able to produce videos pretty quickly, and then we're able to take those, slice them down into the clips that we can use to promote them. We're able to take the transcript. We can take that, feed it into AI, feed it into existing pieces so that we bring new quotes in. And I'm really leaning on, I say video, but it's not really video. It's conversational content. I think conversational content is where I think, and maybe we'll get to this at the end of the conversation, but I think conversational content is the type of content that really works and is going to work more and more in the future. 2 people, 3 people, a panel, whatever it might be. There's so many insights coming from that. It can be recycled in so many ways. It can be a master cut. It can be multiple conversations that string together. There's something so flexible about conversations.
So it's so funny you should say that, because see, like I'm grinning because I so agree with you, and I'm so passionate about the fact that there are so many organizations that can be creating really unique and differentiated thought leadership content from having conversations with the experts that exist within the company in different areas, not just the C-suite industry roles and technical roles and things like that as well. And we actually just did an entire kind of 5-part series on our other podcast, the Content Tech podcast, literally about this. We covered how you choose the people to have conversations, how you plan the conversations, how you record them, how you edit them, of course, how you repurpose them and everything. And we've done an epic blog post, and we've done like a free download as well for preparing for having the conversations to get content. So how you would do preparation for a content conversation. So it's music to my ears to hear you say that, because we're so passionate about that. And actually, for anyone listening, I'll put links to all of that in the show notes, but I'm completely on the same page with you. And you mentioned something just then about how, well, Descript as well, just to say, I agree with you. It features in our workflows as well. Like, in fact, this very episode, Descript is has a part of our tech stack in terms of what we do with the content in it, and it is really good. And you also mentioned that you can pull off things like the transcript, and then you might be able to put that into AI and then get more content from that. And I want to now talk to you about AI. And funnily enough, I always like to speak to my guests on B2B content strategists, specifically this season, about AI. But the previous guest's question was also about AI. So I'm going to join this together, because we have the tradition. Each guest from the previous interview that we had, the previous episode, asks the next guest a question. So the person who is asking you a question is Camille Trent, who's content marketing lead at Aura. Great person, fantastic episode. Camille used to be a client of ours here at Content Connect when she was at Dooley. Super smart marketer. Her question to you, Myles, is,
what's the best use case for AI in B2B SaaS content?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd start by saying that similar to like speaking about video, up until a year ago, maybe, AI was super intimidating. In content, we were hearing, we had a lot of questions that were things like, can you just up the output with AI? And we were seeing the outputs, and I think it was felt that it was as easy as saying, GPT, write me X article, and we could publish it. And we were seeing nothing was cited. It was hallucinating. There were a lot of reasons why we couldn't trust what was coming out. And was it going to help our workflows? Maybe even it might even slow us down in terms of we knew what we needed to accomplish. I think it's gotten better we've been seeing new models in the last year. We've 4.0 and things with GPT. We've been seeing different tools. Claude is one of them. We're seeing content production tools that aren't just about writing. You're getting like Dolly integrated in, and you're getting video. There's lots of options. So my opinion on this has changed a lot in 12 months. I think the best use can start out as simple as, with good briefing skills, the same that you would brief a freelancer, the same that you would brief an agency, you can use AI to help you develop something, a thought further than you would have, quicker than you would have, test your thoughts, test your assumptions. So feeding AI a brief, even something as simple as wanting to make sure that you nail a update of what your team's doing. There's things in there that you can say, I know we've done these 5 things. I want to make sure that it's communicated quickly, clearly, and I can get this out of the way because I want my team to know what's happening and I want to move forward. So I would call that like admin level tasks that you can get it to work on. I think that the best use case that I'm seeing right now is, I do have a realization that I like to think I'm great at everything, but I am not great at everything. And like I said, I'm not great at video, but I found ways to be good at video. I'm not great at Excel. I've been a writer and a content. I've been a person who creates content, and that usually is writing, maybe thinking about design, thinking about how things live, but getting in and working in Excel. I'm working on a project where we have customers can do a test of they can walk through a survey, and as they go through the survey, they'll know if they're in scope of certain tax rules. I'm probably a day or two before this goes out to market. Great, they can do this survey. The survey pumps out an Excel sheet. The Excel sheet then has to be used in a way that I can give them back something. 6 months ago, I would have went to my data team. I would have said, hey, I've got this output. What can you do to turn it that? It becomes something in their workflow. They put an 8-week timeline on it. It gets delivered at 12 weeks after that. And then we have to go through a number of rounds of revisions, and we get something that works out. And maybe 6 months after we start the project, we get this tool out. About a week ago, I start the project in earnest. When I needed to figure out how to work with the Excel sheet, I told GPT, I need to work with this Excel sheet, and I needed to put out these inputs. And I walked through, no, it's not quite right. Here's what it gave me, and here's what it needs to give me. I spoke to it in my language. It produced the language I needed for Excel. Excel is then used with a number of tools, like the inputs are coming from Typeform, the outputs are going to a place where all the data gets merged in, and it merges into a report. So if you fill out what's happened is, if you fill out the report, or you fill out the survey, all of this is happening. I was enabled to do something very technical that I wouldn't have been able to do as a standard content, off-the-shelf content marketer. Now I can work with things that are like manipulating data in the background. It feeds the report. So you get emailed a dynamic report from your dynamic answers. It's going to be different than anyone else who's taken the survey or taken this assessment tool. And now I have a piece of content that is a true lead magnet that I am able to put into market within the course of a week. And this just wouldn't be possible. And yes, I would have been able to do it with a data expert who could help me with the Excel sheet, but that would have taken time, and it would have taken thought, and I would have had to make it, the conversation wouldn't have happened so quickly. And I've leveled myself up. And I think of working on video. I can level myself up in video. I can level myself up in podcast and editing. And maybe I'm better at long form, but I'm not so great at social. And I want something to be a little more words like dynamic or crisp or clear, AI can be my helper to get me a little bit further along there, and really expands my skill set in every direction I want it to. So yesterday I was content marketer, and my career would have been building little skills as time goes on, and every project would have added a skill. Now I can move a project forward without having all of that in my belt, and I'm actually learning but doing at the same time. And I found it very empowering, especially in the last 6 months. I've just been, AI has helped me level up. So I would say best use case is expanding what you can accomplish and what you can deliver with the power of AI.
Yeah, that's really exciting and inspiring answer. I love what you just said. What is if you had one go-to tool, one AI tool, like a Gen AI tool, what is your favorite of all of them? What's your favorite?
Yeah, ChatGPT has been where I've been working, and at this point, it knows a lot about what I like and what I prefer. I also like some of the tools that are in Descript. I have been using some of them to help speed up the workflow of finding clips, things in there. I've experimented with Claude a little bit, but again, I have the sort of rapport with GPT. Mine's name is Alex. I asked it to give itself a name. It picked Alex. So Alex knows what I like. So I work with Alex quite often. And yeah, it works. It works great. It's a little bit by little bit, but now I'm open to whatever the next tool is. I'm open to trying it. Whereas a year ago, I was thinking this is going to take away our livelihood. I think that people that get good with AI are going to be ready to take on the world, especially in content marketing.
I agree. I completely agree. Just excited by it. And there are right ways and wrong ways to use it. And the right ways are so useful and can be so powerful. That was great to hear. So I turn it to you now. So you had a great question there from Camille and fantastic answer. The final question for you is, what would you like to ask our next guest? So if you were with some industry peers, senior people in marketing and content roles, and you could ask a question, what would be the question that you would like to ask?
Yeah, something that I've been thinking about and I don't have an answer for yet. So let's throw it out to someone else, is that I think for the last 10 to 15 years, so much of the work we've been doing has had such an SEO flavor to it. It's creating content that is driving search traffic or helping us rank in search traffic. And to continue on the AI theme, now that people are turning to AI tools to answer their question as opposed to Google itself, how has your approach to SEO changed? And as a part two to that is, what role does AI optimization play in your strategy moving forward?
Great question. I love that. I feel like I've got so much to say, but I'm waiting for what the next guest has to say.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I'm going to be waiting for the next one because I need an answer on that one.
That's great. No, I love it. And it's changing things, and it's interesting to hear what people are already doing. So great. I could carry on forever, but we've run out of time. So thank you so much for coming on to the B2B Content Strategist, Myles. It's been a fantastic conversation. So many great stories and so much value that you shared. So really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Amy.
Is there any next steps that you'd listeners to take? Anything, connect with you on LinkedIn perhaps, or what would you?
Yeah, if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you'll find me Myles Carter. I'm Myles Carter PGCC. You'll see in my name. That's my coaching certification. As well, if Trolley sounds like a solution that might work for your company, feel free to reach out to me, or also trolley.com and take a look there. I think that what we're doing is useful for so many folks. But no, thank you, and I'm looking forward to hearing the next one.
Yeah, and if you are, wherever you are listening or watching to this episode right now, if you go down to the show notes, you'll be able to click on the links, everything that Myles said, the Trolley links, LinkedIn links, etc. Everything will be there. So quick look there and a quick click on those links to any of those places. So yeah, Myles, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Amy.